Welcome back, Shalligators. Today we are continuing our Vlogmas and our series on career tips. Now, careers sometimes go great. Sometimes they don't go so great. And one of you guys actually wrote in a little question to one of my fan accounts, Nicole, who runs Quotes by Shallon, and she posted on her story and I screenshot it because I'm like, this is so true and so relevant. We're going to talk about what to do when you lose your job to Rona, that bitch who's stealing all of our jobs, or just when you lose your job in general, how to deal with the feelings of embarrassment, the loss of identity, what to tell the people in your life, and how you can navigate this new sort of world in terms of dating and just your own self-esteem. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, if you have a question that you want to talk to me about privately one-on-one, head over to my website, shallonlester.com. And over there, you can also shop my new merch, which is the best and I'm so excited about. And if you would like a video shout out instead, head over to Cameo. You can do a pep talk for a friend, a Christmas wish, or just answer a love question for you. And as always, be sure to follow me on Instagram at ShallonXO. So let me read you this question that Shalligator submitted. She said, what to do when you get laid off during Corona and how to deal with the embarrassment of losing a job. I feel like your job is such a big part of your self-worth and your identity. So how do you stop feeling horrible about the fact you got fired? And what about dating? I met this cute guy right before the news about the layoff, and now I feel like my self-esteem is completely ruined. I honestly contemplated never just talking to him again, so I just don't have to admit to him that I got fired. Okay. I've gotten fired and I've gotten laid off. And they're two different things. And that's what I want to address first and foremost in this video, because she's using these terms interchangeably, laid off and fired. They're absolutely not the same thing. It's like saying divorced and widowed. They're, as Blanche Devereaux said, no man would leave me unless he absolutely has to. But it's true. They're a completely different thing. One is out of your control and one you probably had a hand in. A layoff, certainly during this pandemic, is not your fault. I know people who have, more low-level, entry-level jobs, and I know people who are at the absolute top of the food chain in their profession who've both lost their job. This is just how this economy is going, and this is like part of the argument against shutting the country down and closing businesses to protect people from COVID. I'm not adjudicating on it. I'm not a economist. I'm not a founding father. And I don't know. I'm a pop star, not a doctor. That's right. We are truly in unprecedented times right now. And the toll that this disease has taken on our economy is immeasurable. It really is. And it's not done yet. And yeah, there's some people who are basically war profiteering and making a lot of money. Good for them. There's an upside to almost any situation that befalls a society. But for the majority of people, this is really bad. This is really fucking bad. And I know people who work in, like I said, a ton of different sectors. And if you're getting laid off, girl, that's not your fault. You are collateral damage from something that has impacted the globe, our entire planet. In the farthest reaches have seen probably some sort of fallout from this disease, whether it's a, trade, travel, hospitality, whatever it might be. Please don't internalize this as your own failure. Because like I said, getting laid off is different than getting fired. Getting fired means you were doing something wrong, you were probably warned about it, and you just kind of kept going. Or you just had a punitive boss or whatever. And sorry, my back is killing me today. I think I have an ear infection because it hurts to talk. Like this whole side of my head hurts. I know, what am I, 6 months old? Who gets an ear infection as an adult? Weird. So first of all, I want you to take the personalization out of this. I want you to stop thinking that this is a reflection of your skills, your talent, and most importantly, a reflection of your future. I've lost jobs too. I got laid off from Star, and I've always said that I got laid off, but I also feel like I got fired because I was a little bit of a rabble rouser. I was telling people, take those vacation days, take your lunch break. Don't write that article if you think it's libelous or whatever it might be. And the people running my company didn't like that. They didn't like that. And when I lost my job, I felt all of these things. So embarrassed, so confused, so my identity was lost. Like I still referred to Star as like we, us, our, like I was still part of this team. Like I was still part of this family because I had been for almost a decade. And so to lose that, I was like, who am I now? And I lived in New York City, where the very first thing anyone asks you, what do you do? Because everyone has to do something in order to survive there. No one's like, I don't know, I'm just like figuring it out. No, the fuck you're not. No, that city chews you up and spits you out. So for me to not have an answer to that, I was like, ah. But I've also said before that my setbacks are actually setups. Had I not gotten laid off, this career, this YouTube thing, never would have happened. Now I had my channel already and it was doing well, it was steady gains and whatever. But after I got laid off, it's like the universe said to me, you got no excuse now, girl. You got no excuse. There's no parties. You're not a 9-to-5er. You have nothing but time to funnel into the thing you actually really do want to do. And I did that and I was rewarded by the universe and it took off and here I am. But I know what you're saying. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I want to do the thing that I was doing. That was my job, or I'm still in school and I needed a job to survive. Valid, for sure, 100% valid. I'm not saying that you should hate your job and there should always be a side hustle. No, I love your job, but don't make it the entirety of your identity. Here's a trick that helped me when I felt like I had lost my identity, because my friends were super there for me because they knew how this was going to go for me, that I was like Shallon the editor, Shallon the party girl, Shallon the girl on the scene, Shallon the bold-faced name. And suddenly I'm Shallon in her apartment. And it took me quite a few weeks before I felt good enough to say like, I'm a YouTuber. And it was definitely imposter syndrome. I thought someone was gonna be like, no, you're not. But my friends really rallied around me. They're like, yes, you are. Get it. Fake it till you make it. That's what you're doing. Claim it. Call it out. But when I was dealing with losing my identity as an editor, and notice it's still in my Instagram bio, author, editor, predator, mostly because of the rhyme. But I still think of myself that way. Like, no, I am an editor and you can take that away from me. Like maybe I'm not getting paid to be an editor right now, but that is who I am. That is my skill set. And I leave it there on purpose because like I said, when I got laid off, I was dealing with this loss of identity. And my one friend, Katie, she's like, but okay, let's get granular and let's break down like, what is that identity? Like, and I'm like, well, I go to all these events. Like that's part of what I do. Like I have really cool events on my Instagram. And she's like, do you think anyone actually cares? I mean, like, honestly, do you think like that's why people come to your page to see like what event you're at? And I'm like, dude, maybe, like, kinda, yes. She's like, okay, well, what about those events do you think that they're drawn to? I'm like, well, like seeing inside a different world and like, you know, so the sort of this voyeuristic fly on the wall thing. She's like, maybe you could show people that, but in a different way. They can just see life in New York City. They can see life trying to make it as a YouTuber. They can see life cracking those eggs with the double yolks. You remember that? Wild. Maybe the voyeuristicness is, yeah, it's the events, but it's also the funny captions you have. It's how you present it. So I was like, okay, all right. Okay. But also my identity is I am at the top of the food chain in an extremely hard industry, journalism, New York City, print magazines. And now I'm not. Now I'm at the bottom of a food chain in a whole new difficult industry, video creation and YouTubing. So I feel like I'm starting over. I feel like someone has erased my experience and now it's like I'm back in kindergarten. And she's like, first of all, you're not in kindergarten. You know more than you think you do. No one can take that experience away from you. And how can you translate what you know into what you're doing? So when I was going through this loss of identity, I had a friend sit me down. No, it was my boyfriend. Fuck. He really was so useful in so many ways. A lot of other women thought that too. Anyway, and I was like, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know who I am. What is my place in this world? I was just like this kite in a windy sky. And he's like, what did you like about your job? Like what gave you the feelings of satisfaction the most? When you turned in an article, when you were going to a party, when you were like going on trips? And I'm like, yes, all of the above. But it's that I felt useful. You know, I felt really useful and I felt like I was like hustling things. Like I would get a lot of stuff for free and free trips, but it's like I liked the hustle of setting those things up. It wasn't as satisfying as if someone was just like, hey, we're sending you a free outfit, we're sending you a free trip. Like, of course I liked it, but I liked the hustle of it, like the networking and the this and the that. And he's like, that tells me you were bored. That tells me you were bored because you were just sort of like scratching your claws on something because you weren't really being stimulated doing anything else. He's like, imagine if you use that same hustling mentality and like rustling things up and making connections all for your own brand. Now, again, I know what you're thinking. I don't have a fucking brand, Shallon. I'm not a YouTuber. So what the fuck do I do? Okay. I want you to break down what you loved about your job, right? The parts that made you feel validated, good. What are you localizing on when you say, I've lost my identity? What does that mean? And how can you replicate that feeling in your life without the job in the interim? You know, because we don't know how long this interim is going to last. Hopefully it's going to last like 2 weeks. You're going to get another job. No big deal. But it might be that we need to develop this emotional toolbox for the long haul. Even if the pandemic evaporates tomorrow, we still need to become a little bit more bulletproof in this category so that, you know, our whole identity isn't funneled into a job. And truly, that was a big silver lining, that I was forced to confront the worst possible outcome. I was forced to lose the thing on which I predicated my sense of self, because then I had to cultivate it in other healthier ways. So I felt useful working at Star, you know, and I felt very connected. So I started organizing little weekend get-togethers and hosting things with my friends so that I was still that connector maven, and I was still talking to a lot of people and organizing things. And it's like, it was just enough of like the methadone hit that I felt good about myself. And I was like, okay, I still have a place in this world, because that's what identity is. It's social inclusion. Right? It's social inclusion plus self-actualization. So we go back to that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Very bottom, food, shelter, blah, blah, blah. Right above that, the second thing we need the most is social inclusion. To be part of a tribe, a group, the fabric of society. And at the very tippy top, self-actualization. I am doing what I was put on this earth to do. I am using all of my skills. I am firing on all cylinders. I feel passionate and curious and alive. And for me, losing the identity of my job cut out the self-actualization and the social inclusion. So if you can find something that gives you a little bit of that, you're starting like a craft club. You're going to tap lessons. You're doing something. You're volunteering more at church. Integrate yourself into some sort of social fabric that also kicks up a feeling of, I am useful. I am using my skills to make the world, my life, someone else's life better. And that's going to dial down this need to have everything be part of your job. Because jobs are going to come and go, pandemic or no pandemic. There's layoffs, there's outsourcing, there's all sorts of stuff. There's new bosses who just don't fucking like the looks of you, and that's what it is. But let's talk about the element of embarrassment. Because that's what broke my heart about this question, is it's like, I'm so embarrassed. Who is making you feel that way? I mean, really, let's look under the bed at this monster. Is there someone you know who is like, oh, well, guess you got pandemic laid off? Do you know someone like that? Tag me. I'll cyberbully them. I don't fucking care. No one should make you feel like that. That's crazy. But I'm betting that no one actually is. I'm betting that they're not. I'm betting that this is just your personification, your projection and transference of that loss of identity. I'm so embarrassed. But you know what? That's how everyone feels when they get laid off. They feel embarrassed. It's like getting cheated on, right? And what do we say about getting cheated on? The reason it hurts so bad is because you realize you've been making decisions based on a reality that didn't exist. And when we get laid off from a job, notice I didn't say fired, laid off, we're like, fuck, wow, I'm so glad I didn't go home for Christmas last year to ingratiate myself with the boss. Yeah, no, I'm so excited I took that project over from Jen and Michael. So that really fucking paid off for me. Glad I didn't take those vacation days. Glad I came in when I had the flu. Okay, lean into those lessons. Do you feel embarrassed because you gave too much and you didn't get the return on investment, that they threw you out like a snotty ball of Kleenex? That's how I felt. And I was mad at myself. I'm like, do you know how hard I have fought to help this company? Do you know how hard? That I've like stayed late and reworked an article and reworked it. It's fucking Star, okay? Who gives a shit? But that was a lesson I needed to learn. Don't give too much of yourself to a job. I hope I never have to work for someone else again, but life is long and we never know. It's very possible I might. But when I do, I'm going to go in there with an adjusted attitude. No, I don't work weekends. No, I don't answer emails after 6 p.m. No, that's not part of my job description. Boundaries. We feel embarrassed when we lose something that we have plugged hard into and we didn't have enough boundaries. Whether it's a man, a friend, or a job. It's like, oh, whoa. And because what that embarrassment is, it's not embarrassment per se. We're mad at ourselves. Because on some level, we might have known better. Maybe people straight up told us, hey, you need to stay home if you're sick. They will survive without you. And a lot of us have that mentality. It's like the grind culture. No, I have to do it because we have put our whole identity into this. So if I take a step back, then my job, I need to think that they need me. I have a friend like this, and it's very like, if you didn't know what she did and she described what she did, you'd think she was like president, emperor, space explorer, just God, like she had the most important job ever existed to man. If you actually ask her what she did, you're like, I don't even understand what you do. But it cannot be so important that you can't take a weekend off, that you're on a 6 a.m. conference call on a Sunday. Like, what? But that is her identity. And it makes me worried for her because should that evaporate, because shit happens, it's going to leave a huge hole in her life and an overextension that makes that hole even deeper. So look at maybe if those things are at play and then learn from them. And make a vow to yourself. You're like, okay, you know what? Because we go back to that Nelson Mandela quote, I never lose, I win or I learn. You didn't lose here. You're learning. You're going to find another job. What do you think? You're going to retire at like 23? No, of course not. You're going to find another job. It's okay. Do what you have to do financially in the meantime. If that means working at a gas station, work at a fucking gas station. Who cares? I had always thought if I got laid off, I'd want to be like a dog groomer. Just something chill. Of course, financially, that was super possible. It's like, no, you need to make money. You pay New York City rent. But my point is, do what you have to do to take that burden off while you keep looking. But let's talk about this dating aspect, because this also broke my heart. Like, I don't even want to talk to this guy that I met because I'm so embarrassed. Again, if there's someone in your life who is salting the wound, get them the fuck out. When I got laid off, it made the news, and not like CNN, but it made like the New York media news. People knew about it, and I was mortified, and I thought I was going to hear a lot of snickering. No, I had an outpouring of empathy and contact from people who were just like, and so many people said the same thing. If it could happen to you, Shallon, fuck, it can happen to any of us. I was at the top of the food chain. There was literally not one other full-time employee at Star. They laid off me, the only person who worked there. So, and people in New York media, they knew how good I was at my job. They knew my reputation. Even if they worked in a different sector of the business, they still knew. And so this fear I had that people were going to be laughing, it either didn't exist, or the people who were laughing because they had lost their job, but they didn't lose their job. Those motherfuckers had gotten fired. And I know because one of them said something to me. Well, I guess they finally got rid of you. It was something like that. Like, I kind of rage blacked out. It was someone who had worked at my company like years prior. And I was like, you know what, Dan? What's funny is you and I have absolutely nothing in fucking common. You didn't get laid off. Your ass got fired because I was in the meeting where it was decided. Your ass got fired because you were bad at your job. You took 3-hour lunches. You came to work on a razor scooter like a dick. We are not the same. And he was chirping me to make himself feel better. Oh, so I'm not just this weirdo who got fired in my razor scooter. Look, they're firing good people, so we're the same. Bitch, we're not. We're not. If you did get fired, you owe it to yourself to sit down and be like, okay, what did I do wrong? Like, I don't want to go through this again. When we get dumped, it's like, all right, did I contribute to this? It's divorce versus being a widow. How did I have a hand in this? And like I said, sometimes you didn't, and you have a punitive boss, and this is why things are unfair. But this dating thing, I can't imagine any American, any human at this point in the pandemic thinking it's weird to get laid off. Even prior to this, layoffs happen all the time. I survived 17 rounds of layoffs at Star. 17. And that's when the economy was fine, right? No pandemic, no war, 2 presidents, right? And shit happens. So if there's someone who's like, oh, weird, I don't understand why you got laid off. Bitch, you don't? Have you been watching the news? What, have you been in a closet for the last 8 months? This is not someone you want in your life, full stop. Whether it's a friend, family member, boy, it doesn't matter. Also, boys are hardwired to protect. All my trophies have just built a fortress around me. Boys, the more successful I am, the stronger I seem, the more it seems to work against me. My ex, one of my exes it is ongoing, terrified of me. He even hated my house here. He's like, it's so big and full of air. My house is too full of air. This was an actual indictment. And I'm like, okay, I'm proud of my house. I was really hoping you would like it. You didn't. Anyway, I don't really even know where I was going with that. I just had to get off my chest. Men are hardwired to protect. And if they see a damsel in distress, I mean, there's a reason that phrase exists. Not like you need him to come save you or pay for things. Not at all. But it is not in a quality man's nature to be like, loser. Think of what kind of man would do that. And if that is how he is, don't you want to know? I don't want someone in my life who's like rooting for my failure or rubbing my nose in it. Are you kidding me? I want to know. It's like, oh, wow. Thank you for self-identifying as the most toxic, weak-chinned man ever. They always have weak chins. Weak chins, weak character. Prove me wrong. So don't hide from this. But I know what you mean. It's like your identity goes, and then it's like, how can I date? What is there even for someone to connect to? Who am I? I'm just this turtle without a shell. It's like, I'm just this amorphous shape. I'm not even a real person. I'm just like, hello, I am girl. Like, what do I talk about? That is just your own fear. That's your own fear and insecurity. You are more than your job. Are you more than your pussy? Are you? Are you more than who you're dating? Of course. Are you more than who your friends are? Yeah. Are you more than where you live, what you wear? Yeah. So you're more than your job too. And the way to prove that to yourself constantly is to diversify yourself as much as you can. And this being laid off is really stressful, obviously, but there is, as we always talk about, a silver lining. Read those books that are sitting on your shelf. Go take a walk. Take up jogging. Spend time with your pets. Call your grandmother a few times more a week. Do things that make you feel good about yourself. Fill your time with nourishing, healthy activities. And then it's going to be okay that hey, you know what? You're in transition. And just be real with people. Like, I got laid off and I'm fucking scared. Like, it's really stressful. When I got laid off, I tried to put on an absolutely bulletproof front. You know what? This is fine. This is for the best. And I did feel like that. That wasn't false. But I mean, who's excited about suddenly losing their job? It's terrifying. And it's weird. We're coming up. In a few months, it'll be the 2-year anniversary. And I look back on it now and I'm like, what a blessing. What a blessing. God bless the broken road. You know, it leads us to where we need to be. If we allow it, if we learn from it, and if we don't make these setbacks an indictment of who we are, if we look at them for what they usually are, something logistical, something out of our control, and at the very worst, something we can learn from to be better for the next go around. I want to know more career questions you guys have. How are you guys faring job-wise in this pandemic? Have you seen things get busier, slower? Have you lost your job? Have you changed your job? We're going to be doing videos about changing your job after the pandemic, working for yourself. We got a whole bunch on deck. I'll see you later, Shalligators.